Good day, everyone. So, today we will discuss lean operations. But before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever waited in a ridiculously long line at a fast food restaurant, or maybe experienced a delay when ordering something online? Well, what did you feel? Frustrating, right? Today we are going to explore how some of the world's most successful companies, such as Toyota, McDonald's, and even hospitals, have figured out how to eliminate those frustrations by successfully eliminating waste. So, lean operations is not just some theoretical concept that we study in textbooks, okay? It is a real world philosophy that is transforming businesses across every industry you can imagine. And by the end of our discussion today, you will understand exactly how these companies do it, okay? And more importantly, how you can apply these principles whether you end up working in manufacturing, healthcare, retail, or even starting your own businesses, okay? So let us get started and discover how lean thinking can give organizations a serious competitive advantage. So before we jump into the details, let me outline what we are going to accomplish today. Okay? Think of these learning objectives as our roadmap for this Chapter 16 Lean Operations. First, we will define what lean operations actually means. And trust me, it is more than just doing things faster or cutting costs, okay? There is a whole philosophy behind it. Second, we are going to explore the 7 wastes and 5 S's. And now, the 7 wastes are the enemies of efficiency. They are the things that actually drain money, drain time, and resources from any operation. And the 5 S, on the other hand, are actually your toolkit for creating organized and efficient workspaces. So these are concepts you can literally apply to your own study area or even to your room. And then third, we will learn how to determine optimal setup time. So this gets a little technical, but essentially we are talking about how quickly you can switch from making one product to another. So the faster you can do this, the more flexible and efficient your operation becomes. And the fourth one, we will define Kanban, okay, which is a super elegant Japanese system for managing inventory. And imagine never having to guess how much inventory you need because your system tells you automatically. And finally, we will compute the required number of Kanbans. So this is where we put some numbers to the concept and actually calculate how many containers or signals you need in your system. So these objectives might seem like a lot, but don't worry, okay? We will take it step by step, and I promise by the end of this discussion today, it will all make perfect sense, okay? So ready? Let's dive in. Alright, so let us start with the foundation. What exactly are lean operations? Okay, so the definition of lean operations is that it eliminates waste through continuous improvement and focus on exactly what the customer wants. So let me break that down because every word in that definition actually matters. Okay? The first one we say eliminate waste. Now, in lean thinking, waste is anything that doesn't add value from the customer's perspective. So if a customer wouldn't be willing to pay for it, it's a waste. Simple as that. Okay? Second is the continuous improvement. Now, lean is not a one-time fix. Okay? It is not like you implement it at once and then you're done. No, it's not like that. It is an ongoing journey. You are constantly looking for ways to do things better, faster, and more efficiently. Well, the Japanese call this kaizen, okay? Which we will talk later, which we'll talk about more later, okay? And the third one is focus on exactly what the customer wants. So this is actually crucial because lean organizations are obsessive about understanding customer value. So they do not produce things that customers do not want, okay? They do not add features that customers do not need. So everything revolves around delivering exactly what the customer values and when they value it, okay? So I'd like you to think about Amazon Prime for a moment, okay? You order something and it arrives the next day. Sometimes even the same day. Well, yeah, it happens sometimes even the same day if you are just located in a country wherein there is an Amazon Amazon warehouse in your area. Okay? So that operation or that action is actually what we call the lean operation. They have actually eliminated waste in their logistics. They continuously improve their delivery systems. And they are laser focused on what you want. We're in all of us as customers, we want fast, reliable delivery, right? So when we talk about lean operations, we are really talking about a completely different way of thinking about how work gets done. Well, it is about respect for people, elimination of waste, and an almost obsessive focus on delivering value. And it all starts with this fundamental definition. So now that we understand what lean operations are, let us talk about the enemy of lean operations. And the enemy is what we call waste. Okay? So in lean terminology, we identify 7 specific types of waste. And here is something interesting. These were originally identified by Taiichi Ohno at Toyota. Taiichi Ohno is the father of Toyota production system. He literally walked around the factory floor, he observed everything, and he categorized all the ways companies waste money. Okay? Very brilliant, right? So let me walk you through each one, and as I do, I want you to think about examples you might see in your own life or in businesses that you are working with right now. Okay, your company study. So let's go to number 1. Number 1 waste is overproduction. That is a type of waste. Okay, this means that you are producing more than the customer orders or producing before it is actually needed. Now, I want you to imagine a bakery making 100 donuts every morning when they only sell 60. So those extra 40 donuts, that's a waste. Okay? So they will either go to stale or get thrown out. So money literally in the trash. Okay? So the number 2 is the queues. Okay? So queue is another type of waste. This is an idle time. The idle time, the storage, and waiting. So I want you to think about work in process inventory, just sitting around waiting for the next step. So it is not adding value to your product. It is just taking up space and tying up your money. So ever been to a doctor's office and let's say for example you had a checkup and you have waited 45 minutes past your appointment time? Well, that's a queue waste, okay? And it frustrates us. It frustrates us customers or patients. And the third type of waste is what we call the transportation. This is actually moving material between plants or work centers more than necessary. So every time you move something, you risk damaging it. You spend time and energy and you add no value to your product. So if you have to move parts from one building to another and then back again, then that is transportation waste. Okay? So let's go to number 4. The number 4 is what we call inventory. So these are the unnecessary raw materials, the work in process, the finished goods or excess supplies. Okay? So now I know what you might be thinking. Isn't it part of inventory good? Don't we need safety stock? Well, in lean thinking, inventory is seen as evil because it hides problems. It ties up your cash, takes up your space, can become obsolete, okay? And masks quality issues and inefficiencies. And the fifth type of a waste is emotion. This is any movement of equipment or people that doesn't add value to your product. So if a worker has to walk across the factory floor to get a tool, that is a type of motion waste. Now, if a surgeon has to turn around to reach for an instrument, turn around to reach for an instrument, another turn around to reach for an instrument, that is also a motion waste, okay? Now, every unnecessary step is an opportunity for improvement, okay? And the type 6 or the sixth type of waste is the over-processing. So this means doing work on a product that adds no value. Maybe you are polishing a part that goes inside a machine where nobody will ever see it. Or you are generating reports that nobody reads. So that is a type of over-processing. Okay? And the number 7 is what we call the defective products. Okay? So defective products are a type of waste. So what are the defective products? So these are your returns, your warranty claims, your rework, or the scrap materials. So this is probably the most obvious waste. When you make something wrong, you've wasted materials, you've wasted time, and you've wasted labor. Plus, it damages your reputation and customer relationships. Okay? Now, here is the thing. These 7 wastes exist in every operation. Whether it is manufacturing, it is service, healthcare, or even in education, okay? The goal of lean is to systematically identify and eliminate these wastes. And trust me, once you learn to see these wastes, you will spot or you will be able to identify them everywhere or anywhere you go. Alright, now that we know what wastes looks like, let us talk about one of the most practical tools for fighting it, and that is 5S. So this is actually a checklist that also originated in Japan, and it's beautifully simple, okay? In fact, you can apply this to your own study space or your bedroom, okay? So the 5S are 5 Japanese words that all start with S, and they provide a systematic approach to workplace organization and standardization. So the first one, S, is the sort or segregate. So in sort and segregate, In Japanese, this is seiri. So this is simple, okay? Keep what is needed and remove everything else from the work area. So you go through your workspace and you ask, do I really need this? If the answer is no, then get rid of it. When in doubt, throw it out, okay? So this creates space and improves the workflow. Now I want you to think about your desk right now. Okay, look at your desk right now. How much stuff is on there on your desk right now that you haven't been touched in weeks or you haven't used in weeks or in months? So the number 2 type of waste is simplify or straighten, or in Japanese terms, it means seitan. So this means arranging the work area to improve workflow and reduce wasted motion. So everything should have a specific place, and that place should make sense based on how frequently you are using that item or you are using that material. So things you use most often should be within easy reach. And it is about efficiency and ergonomics, okay? And the third S is the shine or sweep, or in Japanese term, we call it seiso. So it means clean daily to eliminate dirt, contamination, and clutter. So this is not just about making things look nice, although that's a bonus for sure. It is actually about maintaining equipment, spotting problems early, and creating a professional environment. So when you clean something, you have to inspect it and you notice when something is wrong. Okay? And the fourth S is the standardize, or in Japanese term, it is seikatsu. So this means removing variations from the process by developing standard operating procedures. Now, once you have sorted, simplified, and cleaned, you need to make sure it stays that way. So, you have to create checklists, document the best way to do things, and make the standard so clear that any deviation is immediately obvious. Okay? And the fourth S is the sustain or self-discipline. We commonly call it as shitsuke. So this is the hardest one because it is about making the first 4 S's a habit. Okay? So you periodically review to recognize efforts and sustain progress. So you have to use visual management wherever possible. So you have to make it a routine, not a one-time event. Okay? So let's say now many US companies add 2 more S's. Okay, what is that? We have safety and we have support. When safety, okay, it means building good safety practices into everything we do. And the other one that the US companies added were support. So it means integrating daily cleaning with preventive maintenance to reduce downtime. So the good thing about 5S is that they are universal. Whether you are organizing a factory floor, a hospital emergency room, an office, or even a retail store, the 5S actually work. Okay? They actually reduce waste, they improve efficiency, and create a better working environment. And honestly, they will make your life easier as well. Okay, so now let us shift gears and talk about something that is absolutely critical in lean operations. And that is what we call the setup time. This is where we start getting into some calculations, okay? But stick with me because this is really powerful stuff. Now first, let me explain what we mean by optimal setup time. So this is actually the minimum amount of time required to set up a machine or process to switch from producing one product to another. Okay? So I want you to think about it this way. Imagine you run a print shop and you are printing blue flyers. So when you are done, a customer wants red flyers again. So you have to stop the machine, you have to clean out the blue ink, and then you have to load again the red ink. So you have to adjust the settings, you run test prints, and finally start production. That's how it goes, right? So all of that is your setup time. And during your setup time, you are not producing anything, right? So you are not making money. The machine is actually idle. So the question becomes, how long should this setup take? Okay? Now, in traditional manufacturing, companies accepted long setup times. Well, sometimes hours, which meant they had to produce in large batches to make it economical. But here is the problem with large batches. You end up with lots of inventory, which, as we learned, is a waste, right? So, lean thinking flips this on its head. So it says, let us dramatically reduce setup time so we can produce in small batches, which reduces inventory, increases flexibility, and helps us respond faster to customer demand. So the variables that we work with are, we will be using a capital D. Okay, wait. So I'll just use a pointer so that all of us will be on board. Okay, for a while. So we will be using here, as you can see, we have the capital D, and this is actually the main formula that we are using. So the capital D here actually stands for the annual demand. And then the small d, it stands for the daily demand. And then we have a small p, which stands for daily production rate. And then we have a capital Q, QP, which stands for the EOQ, or the desired lot size. And then we have the capital H, which stands for our holding cost. And then we have S, which stands for setup costs. And ultimately, we want to figure out the optimal setup time that allows us to achieve our desired small lot size economically. So let me show you why this matters, okay? Let's have a real-world example. So question, why should we care about the optimal setup time? Why should we do that? Well, what's the big deal here? Well, let me share with you the 5 key benefits, and you will see why this is such a game changer for every companies. Okay, the benefit number 1 is it's smaller batches. So with faster setups, the company can actually make products in smaller batches instead of big expensive batches. So this means they don't have to store as much inventory that we consider a while ago as a type of waste, and meaning they will have less money tied up, less space needed, less risk of obsolescence. So meaning it is a win-win-win. Okay? The benefit number 2 is it will give more productivity. So shorter setup times mean that machines can spend more time actually making the products instead of sitting idle during setups. So every minute you save on setup is a minute you can spend producing. Okay? That's just how simple it is. The benefit number 3 is that it is the flexibility. Okay, more flexibility. So quicker setups allow the company to switch, making different products more easily. So this helps them respond faster to customer demands. So say for example, if your customer preferences change, you can easily adapt. So if a special order comes in, you can accommodate it without disrupting everything. So the number 4 benefit is the lower inventory costs. So since they can make products in smaller batches, the company does not have to hold on to as much finished inventory, which actually saves money. Now remember, holding cost is a real money, right? It is warehouse space, it is your insurance, your obsolescence risks, and your capital is being tied up to those inventory. And the fifth benefit, and this is powerful, is that it exposes process issues. Okay? So eliminating the big inventory buffers means any issues in the production process become more obvious so the company can actually fix them. So when you have huge piles of inventory, problems get hidden. When you have minimal inventory, problems surface immediately and you are forced to solve them immediately as well. And this drives continuous improvement. So now, let me give you a real example. So, let's talk about this scenario. At one Kodak plant in Mexico, okay, they reduced the setup time for changing a bearing from 12 hours. Yes, 12 hours. Down to just 6 minutes. Okay? That's true. From 12 hours down to 6 minutes. That is the power of focusing on setup production. And that kind of improvement is typical in world-class lean organizations. Alright, let us make this concrete with an example. So I'm going to walk you through a real problem and I want you to follow along because you will need to know how to do this, okay? How to do the computation. So let's read the scenario together. Crate Furniture Incorporated, a firm that produces rustic furniture, wants to move toward a reduced lot size. So their production analyst, Aleda Roth, determined that a 2-hour production cycle would be acceptable between two departments. So she needs to figure out what setup time would accommodate this 2-hour cycle time. Now, let me show you the data that we are working with. So we have the annual demand, which we have a symbol of capital D and a value of 400,000 units. Our daily demand, a symbol of small d, is 1,600 units per day. Well, how did we get this? Well, that is 400,000 divided by 250 working days. Okay, we just use 250 working days. And then our daily production rate, which uses a symbol of small p, is equal to 4,000 units per day. And then our desired lot size is 400 units. How do we get it? It is 2 hours of demand, okay? Remember, they produce 1,600 per day over 2-hour periods, okay? So the holding costs, which with a symbol of capital H, so that is $20 per unit per year. And our hourly labor rate is $30. So now what we need to find is the setup cost, and from that we will be able to calculate the setup time. Now I want you to focus on the formula. Okay, I'll just get the pointer. So I want you to focus on this formula, class. Okay, look at my pointer. So are using a variation of the EOQ formula, but we are solving for S instead of our Q. So the formula here is that Q squared multiplied to H multiplied to 1 minus D over P divided by 2D. So all we have to do is we have to substitute the numbers, okay? So Q squared, okay, wait class, we only have to substitute the numbers, okay? So let's proceed to the next slide, okay? So after we substitute the numbers, class, we got an answer here, okay? We got an answer. We actually solved for the capital S or the setup time, which actually resulted to $2.4, okay? So we just substitute all the given values in the formula. So now that we have our setup time, which is $2.4, okay? So that means our setup time, $2.4 is an hourly labor rate, okay? So our $2.4 will be divided to $30. Why 30? That is given a while ago per hour. So that's why we have a setup time of 4.8 minutes, okay? So what does it mean? What does it mean with a setup time of 4.8 minutes? So this means that Crate Furniture should be able to set up their production process and switch from one product to another in less than 5 minutes. So this very short setup time allows them to produce in smaller, more efficient batches instead of large wasteful ones. Okay? So that's it. All right. Now we are going to talk about one of my favorite lean tools, which is Kanban. So this is elegant, visual, and incredibly effective. Kanban is actually a Japanese word that means a card or a signal. So in practice, it is actually a system that uses visual signals, often in the form of cards, but sometimes just empty spaces, lights, or flags. Okay, that's how they do this Kanban system. So the purpose of this one, the cards, just empty spaces, or the lights or the flags, is that it triggers the production or delivery of materials only when they are needed at the next stage of the production process. So here's the key insight. Instead of producing on a fixed schedule or in response to a forecast, you will produce in response to the actual demand. So it is what we call a pull system. So it means work is pulled through the system by actual need, not pushed through on a schedule. Okay? So, well, typically, a Kanban typically a Kanban signal exists for each container of items to be obtained. So when that container is empty or actually reaches a certain point, well, the signal is triggered and production or delivery of the next container actually begins. So the benefit of doing this Kanban is actually its simplicity. So there is no complex computer systems required in here. Although modern companies often use electronic Kanbans, but the system is actually visual, immediate, and foolproof. Okay? So let me give you a clear picture with a simple example. So, okay. Now I want you to forget about the manufacturing for a moment. Let us talk about something that we all understand, okay? Convenience store. Now, I want you to imagine that you are running a small convenience store and you sell candy bars, okay? So here is how Kanban works in this scenario. Now, when a customer buys the last candy bar from the shelf, that empty space on the shelf is actually the signal, right? It is a signal that actually tells you to order another box of candy bars from your supplier. So that empty shelf space is your Kanban, okay? Now, let me highlight the key ideas here. The first one is you only order more candy bars when the shelf is empty, not just on a fixed schedule, okay? You are not ordering every Monday, whether you need them or not. You are actually ordering based on actual consumption. So this one is the pull system in action. The second is the empty space on the shelf actually acts as the visual signal or your card that triggers the order to your supplier. So it is an immediate visual and it requires no computer system to manage this one. And the third one is you order just enough candy bars to refill the shelf, not a big extra stockpile, okay? So this actually helps minimize the amount of inventory you have to keep on hand. So which minimizes your holding costs, wherein that the holding cost that is money tied up in your inventory. So now scale this up to a manufacturing environment. So instead of candy bars, you have parts or components, okay? Let's think of that way. So instead of a shelf, you have a work center. But the principle is just exactly the same. You have visual signals that trigger production and movement of materials in small quantities exactly when just needed or exactly when it is just required. So this is actually how Toyota revolutionized manufacturing. They looked at how a supermarket works and said, we can apply this to car production. And it worked brilliantly. So the Kanban system actually prevents overproduction, which is one of our 7 wastes. Because you never make more than what is being consumed. So it actually minimizes your inventory because you are working with small quantities. And it makes problems visible immediately because there is no buffer stock to hide issues. Pretty elegant, right? So now let us see how we actually calculate how many Kanbans we need in a system. So now, let's put some numbers to this Kanban concept. We need to figure out exactly how many Kanban containers or signals we need in a system. Okay? So too few, if you will have too few, well, what will happen? You will run out of materials and shut down your production. If you will have too many, what will happen? Well, you are defeating the purpose by holding excess inventory. Okay? So, let's read together this given example. Kindly focus on your screen. Hobbs Bakery produces short runs of cakes that are shipped to grocery stores. The owner, Ken Hobbs, wants to reduce inventory by changing to a Kanban system. So here is the data he has developed, okay? So as you can see, production lead time is equal to the wait time plus material handling time plus the processing time is actually equal to 2 days. Okay, so take note, this 2 days already includes your wait time, your material handling, and then your processing time. And then you also have to take note that your daily demand is equal to 500 cakes. And then your safety stock is good for 1/2 day's production. And then your container size is equal to 250 cakes. So this 250 cakes was actually determined using our EOQ, which we actually learned on the previous chapter in the inventory chapter. Okay? So now, our task here is of course to determine how many Kanban containers can Hobbs actually need. So the formula that we use is very straightforward, right? Can you focus on my pointer? The formula here says that number of Kanbans, or the Kanbans is also referred to as the containers. Number of Kanbans or containers is equal to your demand during the lead time plus your safety stock divided by the size of your container. Okay? So let me walk you through this step by step. Okay? So first, we have to calculate demand during lead time. So what is this demand during lead time? So demand during lead time is just equal to your lead time multiplied to your daily demand. Okay? Which is equal to 2 days. Multiply to your 500 cakes. Okay? So that is 1,000 cakes. Okay? And then second is, of course, we have to calculate for the safety stock. Okay, so our safety stock is, how do you calculate? 1/2 day multiplied to your daily demand. Okay, so that gives us 250 cakes. So that's it. Then after we have multiplied that, we will substitute all the numbers or figures that we have derived into this formula. Okay, so that's it. I have given here how to calculate demand during lead time, right? So just have to substitute. So the number of Kanbans is equal to 5. Okay, now after this slide, you will be able to see the substitution or the calculation as well as the interpretation of the 5 Kanban. This is what we have discussed earlier. This is the detailed computation. Okay, so just have to substitute. What did we derive here? We derive for us to compute for the number of Kanbans. Of course, we first solve for the demand during lead time, which is equal to this, wherein the demand during lead time has a formula, lead time multiplied to daily demand. So you substitute 2 days multiplied to 500 cakes, so you have 1,000. And then we also compute for the safety stock, which is equal to 1/2 multiplied to your daily demand, and that gives you 250. Then after deriving these figures or these numbers, we just plug it in, or we substitute these figures to the formula. And then we got 5 here. So we will read together the interpretation. Hobbs Bakery should have 5 separate bins or containers that hold 250 cakes each. So when one of those containers is emptied, it triggers the production of the next batch of 250 cakes. So the number 5 represents this one, the value or the figure that we have derived actually represents the right amount of Kanban containers to have in the system to meet the demand during the 2-day lead time, plus maintain a safety stock given the container size. So this Kanban system helps Hobbs Bakery avoid overproducing while ensuring they have enough cakes to meet customer orders. And that brings us to the end of our journey through Chapter 16, the Lean Operations. So let's have a quick recap of what we have covered today, because these concepts are truly transformational and you will be able to use this in your company study. So we actually started by defining lean operations, wherein it is eliminating waste through continuous improvement while focusing exactly on what the customer wants. We also explored the 7 wastes, okay? We also learned about the 5S, which is actually a practical checklist that you can apply starting today, even on your own desks or your own study space. And we also discussed the mathematical or the technical part, which is the optimal setup time. We learned how reducing setup time enables smaller batches, increases flexibility, and exposes problems that might otherwise stay hidden. And finally, we explored the Kanban, okay? So that simple system of visual signals that pulls material through production exactly when it is needed, and it is minimizing inventory while ensuring smooth operations. So now, here is what I want you to remember. I want you to remember that lean is not just for manufacturing only, okay? It is not just for big companies. So these principles actually can be applied everywhere. It can be applied in SME, okay, small medium enterprise businesses, or in hospitals, in restaurants, carinderia, offices, schools, and yes, even in how you manage your own personal productivity and studies, okay? So the philosophy of eliminating waste, continuously improving and focusing on value is universal. And in today's competitive world, organizations that master these principles do not just survive, okay? They actually thrive. So I encourage you to start seeing the world through a lean lens, okay? So look for the 7 wastes in your daily life. You can apply that. And then I want you to practice the 5S in your room or in your study space or in your workspace. And I want you to think about how Kanban principles could help you manage your tasks or your ongoing projects. So these are not just academic concepts. They are practical tools that can make your life and your work more efficient and less stressful. So thank you for your attention today. I hope that you found this as fascinating as I do. So I want you to always remember that continuous improvement starts with awareness, and awareness starts with understanding these principles. So take care, stay curious, and keep improving. I'll see you on our next lesson. Bye, everyone.